It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is a show that's related to our other show, Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we talk about how to get streaming services and machines and get them working and watch it on your TV. But then we watch stuff and we enjoy it and we talk about it here. This week, we're going to talk about Hannibal, episode 2 of season 1, The Mandalorian, episode 4 of season 2, and Fargo, season 4, episode 9. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yo, and most importantly, for the first time in as long as I can remember, we've got a full cast for all of Spoilerin time discussions because joining us is Hollywood's own Meryl Barr. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, man.
Thank you for having me back. I'm very excited to get into some things.
All right, so you've watched Fargo.
Yes. No. Wait. Oh well.
All right. No. Meryl has watched The Mandalorian and Hannibal. But if you don't hear him talk while we're talking about Fargo, it's only because he hasn't watched it. But he's willing to hang around and be spoiled. Taking one for the team. Appreciate that, Meryl. All right. Let's talk about Fargo, episode 9 of season 4. The episode entitled East/West. All in black and white. So kind of a concept episode, Brian.
Best episode of the entire season. The black and white thing, I almost want to go back and watch it again because that almost certainly was an intentional kind of reverse Wizard of Oz thing, complete with like they go into the magical, instead of going into color, you start in the drab real world of color, but you go into kind of the fantastical dreamlike quality of black and white filmmaking. And also the black and white, even as I said it out loud, I thought to myself, I wonder why they're making this in black and white. Of course, that's why. It's because they want me to think about the stark contrast between black and white societies. And you have black and white divide between two sisters, the East and the West wings and all that. And of course, you end with the surprise twister in Kansas where you're brought back to, you know, in a weird, you know.
As soon as the twister came, I'm like, oh, it's going to turn color.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I immediately knew, and I would have been shocked and disappointed if it hadn't.
I want to go back and figure out all the weird vignettes that they painted that when they made the hotel look scary to the kid. This was amazing, Tom, because it was dead simple. I kind of wish I could know what it's like to watch just this episode and not anything else from this season. I liked it so much. I thought it was great.
I thought I was not going to like it. I thought I was in for a different episode. I thought, oh, this is going to be a detour. They're going to do shtick, not shtick like funny shtick, but they're going to be like, oh, this is our black and white look at the past, and we were going to get a bunch of backstory because it started with that book that said back in the 30s there was this thing, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then it turned out I was very confused to find out, like, oh, wait a minute, no, that's current day Kansas City they're talking about. No, those are people, and oh wait, that's the Italian guy. Wait, hold on. And it got way more interesting, obviously, as soon as Rabbi showed up with the kid. And then I was fully on board and loved it. And I had been wanting to know what has been going on with Rabbi and the kid while he was out and about. And this blew away all of my expectations, predictions, things that I thought were going to happen. And now I have no idea where we're going with that story.
In the chat, they pointed out that they managed to have a little dog too, which is like, I don't know how I missed that. And now it's like, of course they did.
I totally missed that too. You're absolutely right.
That's great.
Yeah, you're right. We got to watch this again because I'm sure it's littered with Wizard of Oz references that we missed.
Yes. Man. Oh, okay. Separate question. That 5 to 8 minutes where, because I had the exact same experience as you. Like, okay, we were in the past of the 1950s. Now we're in the way past of what, Depression era? Where are we? But then they go out of their way to mention the Korean War. And I'm like, was there another war in Korea that I missed? And then it kind of led up to that moment when they're like, oh no, this is a stylistic choice. This is just to represent that this is sort of side quest territory. Having said all that, man, this was not directed by Noah Hawley, but man, Noah Hawley properties really sing when they have simple stories that allow in an unconfusing way to flesh out with lots of visual detours in the background. And man, I just, like I said, favorite episode of this entire season for me.
Yeah. It's also very interesting when we get back to the main plot that everybody thought the boy was dead when last we saw them, even though we knew he wasn't. And then it became revealed that he wasn't dead. The rabbi took off with him, and now Rabbi's gone and the boy is off on its own. That's going to complicate a bunch of those plot lines that I thought I understood. And I love that. I think that's great.
Could be the kind of dangling thread that comes back at the end in a surprising and important way. And I will feel like it will be earned if that is the case. But also, they portrayed accurately this kid as somebody who's not really happy to be caught up in the chess game that his dad's playing, and also totally unencumbered right now. And maybe he might as well be dead as far as our story, the story of the main season goes.
You're right. We may never see him again, but there are people who know he's not dead and people who think he's dead, and they're going to start arguing with each other, and there's going to be no kid around to prove them wrong or right.
Well, and that's good chess. Back to the Queen's Gambit. That's good chess where it's like this could go either way, and I feel like either way it goes will be totally earned. That's my favorite part of any movie is once we get past what I've seen in the previews, and I genuinely have no idea what's coming next. I feel like as far as the kid thread, that's where we're at.
All right. Anything else on Fargo 409?
No, it's just great.
Just great. Really good stuff. All right. That is Fargo, episode 9, season 4. Let's talk about The Mandalorian, season 2, episode 4, chapter 12, The Siege. And Meryl will bring you back in now. This is The Mandalorian landing back with his friends, Gina Carano and Carl Weathers as Cara Dune and Greef Karga, trying to fix the Razor Crest, which was just fixed barely and is limping along and can't get them all the way to the destination they were headed to. So we stop down for another side quest.
This episode confirms what I have been feeling about The Mandalorian all season, which is if every episode was like this, I would not have a problem with The Mandalorian. My issue with The Mandalorian is there's episodic television, and then there's what The Mandalorian has been doing all season long, which is it goes beyond episodic. Like it doesn't have we were talking about traditional TV in the main show and the idea of supernatural and things like the key thing for all those shows is, yes, every episode acts independently within a story that is begins and ends in the episode, but you still weave other emotional beats and arcs and growth throughout the episodes. And what I feel like Mandalorian is constantly missing is those through lines of emotional growth and progression, which this episode has in spades. And I wish every episode was like this one, because this episode gives me, it's still a standalone side quest, but it moves certain chess pieces forward on a character level, on an emotional level. And yeah, the episode's great. It's the best episode of the season. I wish all the other episodes were like that.
Your Honor, if I may, before you offer judgment, this is far and away not only the worst episode of this season, it is the worst episode of The Mandalorian, full stop, without hesitation. Directed by Carl Weathers, there are production errors to the tune of you being able to see crew members in shots.
How does this keep happening on these shows? They have Game of Thrones, remember?
Also, if you'll go back, Your Honor, I cite precedent of us enjoying. What did we enjoy about The Mandalorian? The fact that it was a Star Wars world with teeth. Oh my goodness, was it a scary, dark world where bad things can and did happen to people? Was it a place where the empire was broken, fractured, warlords, remnants just barely getting ahead that were somehow scrambling and terrifying for all of their desperation? And what did we get? We got not a wretched hive of scum and villainy. We got quite literally the former intimidating master of all bounty hunters, suddenly a jolly Christmas Santa sheriff in charge of a town. Everybody's friends, everybody's laughing, everybody's hugging, everybody's whomping about the fact that he left to deliver the kid. That's his whole freaking job.
Objection.
And now he's back.
Objection,
hold on.
Your Honor.
Let me finish, Your Honor. He's back, clearly
Which
having
one of you
made
is Your Honor?
clearly having made no progress on his quest. And then they go and discover, whoopsie doodle, there's a Death Star around the corner, where they go and they manufacture opportunities. First of all, everyone's way too polished. Everyone's way too on top of their game. They have corridor battles. They have shootouts. They have TIE fighters show up. But that's not enough. Let's make sure to put the Return of the Jedi scooters on there. It's too much, too polished. The only thing that was missing was, don't forget to ride Rise of the Resistance next time you're at Disney's Hollywood Adventures. The case rests.
Okay, objection, Your Honor. So here's what
This is not how court works.
No, it's definitely not.
This
No,
is
go ahead.
progression.
Jury, be quiet.
This is progression, though. Like he came in, they cleaned up the town. Everyone's happy. Yeah, the guy's jolly. Now they're living in a much better city. Like I am all for how he returns and suddenly everything is kind of better now. And it's this off-world, this
even the guy that he caught, go back and watch that first scene, that captivating electric moment that he says, I could bring you in warm or I could bring you in cold. That was a real threat with teeth. Now that guy's on the team and he's wacky, chubby comic relief. There was, you know how I feel about anything with any shows made of rubber. I felt no risk of consequence for anything at any point. Although, heck of a side quest, Yoda eats a cookie. That's certainly worth 7 minutes of airtime. And C-3PO copy 278 points at a definite laser etched glowy thing.
I mean, I am so shocked we're on two diametrically opposed opinions on this episode. Like this, I feel like this is what we should want from The Mandalorian. This is like the first time I've seen a sense that, like, I had this conversation on Twitter last night where it's like The Mandalorian is barely television. And this is the first time where it felt like television that made me so happy. And then Tom, what do you feel about this episode?
I have none of the objections Brian has. I like a shared universe where speeders aren't limited to one movie and they can show up in other situations. I took the polished aspect of the inhabitants of the abandoned base to be a surprise because Moff Gideon had sent his legion, which would be polished because it's Moff Gideon's, and they didn't expect that. So I didn't take that as like out of character. I took it as like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't who we expected to be here. I thought there were some really good lore elements in here of especially where you find out the reason for the child. They were using its blood to try to create some kind of force sensitive clone. Could be Palpatine, could be Snoke, could be something entirely different. They wisely
I got the
left.
sense it was Snoke.
They didn't make that clear at all. They wisely left it entirely ambivalent what it was, so they can either reveal later it was Snoke for sure or surprise you with something different. I hope they surprise me with something different. That said, while I cannot join Brian's opinion on this matter, I will file a concurrence on his side that this is my least favorite episode of The Mandalorian this season.
Oh my God.
Because we went back over old ground. I didn't mind seeing him happy. I'm with you, Meryl. Yes, he saved the town and left them there and they've taken good care of it, but I didn't need to see it again. That's not that interesting. Having a Death Star-like battle wasn't that interesting. And the things that I enjoyed about it didn't outweigh yet another side quest on a planet I'd already seen.
But this ties into, I'm not less about the revisiting of the planet, because I can take or leave that. But more importantly, this felt like the side quest was half related to what was happening in the show itself. Whereas like this thing with the spider thing and the frog lady was like, this doesn't need to be here. And this is too far into the wholly, truly, no episode means anything. Nothing is connected. Every episode stands alone. There's a point where that becomes overwhelming.
But I disagree with you. Every episode is connected at the beginning and end, and the thing that motivates him through every episode is the connection. It's basically what Doctor Who does, where they have an arch for the season, and they have these other episodes that happen on the way through.
There is a craft to how you weave those things, and I
think you just don't like that way of telling a story.
I love episodic television.
You don't like this kind of episodic television.
But I wanted to write an article about this, but no one paid me to do it. It's this idea.
I wanted to fly a helicopter. Nobody would pay me to do that either.
So the original Star Wars was a throwback to the serials of yore, right, of the 30s and 40s. What I do appreciate is Mandalorian kind of takes that idea of like, this is a throwback to when all television was, every episode was not connected to the episode that came before or was going to come after it. And I understand that, but the thing is that Star Wars took the 30 serials and updated them a little bit and sort of changed them and made them work in a 70s context. Jon Favreau has opted to not take those old TV shows of yore that he grew up loving and bringing them into a 2020 context. And that, I
disagree with that. I think these are very much updated.
I'm with you, Tom. I think we just have different lenses that we're seeing. I think we're the blind checking out the elephant. Makes it sound like we're about to date it. You know that metaphor.
We're the blind T-Mobile hitting on the elephant while 3 other people are betting we're going to fail.
Yes, exactly.
See Cordkillers for the meaning behind that metaphor. Well, I don't think we're going to come to an agreement on this. I think we all have very valid perspectives from where we're bringing it into it. Is there anything else about this episode that we should cover before we move on?
Yeah.
This was the Baby Yoda stuff was. I know you guys think it was useless, but I do think they got.
Brian thought it was useless. I did not express an opinion on the macarons. I thought it was funny.
Not the macarons, but also the part where he's trying to fix the ship and doing the wires. I was like, they got a lot.
That was great. I love that little bit. That cold open bit was great.
And then when he threw up in the ship because he was doing all the moves during the dogfight,
that just made me feel bad. Like that was irresponsible of Mando to let him eat those macarons.
I just felt like they got a good use out of Baby Yoda this episode.
Brian, anything additional?
No, that's pretty. I've the case. The defense rests.
The whatever defense prosecution. We're not sure.
Yeah,
you rest.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if the audience rests.
Is this civil court?
No, this is the metaphor has now been pushed beyond its limits court.
This is uncivil
That
court.
is The Mandalorian, episode 4, season 2. Let's talk about Hannibal, season 1, episode 2, Amuse Bouche. This one involves mushrooms, and I have to get this out. I texted this to you guys. I love that Brian Fuller, who is the writer of this episode, creator of Hannibal, and also was one of the co-creators of Star Trek Discovery, has a character in Amuse Bouche named Stamets who turns people into mushrooms. And the character on Star Trek Discovery from the season that Fuller worked on, who runs the mushroom drive for Star Trek Discovery, is also named Stamets. And I found that hilarious that he very obviously borrowed the serial killer name for the chief engineer on Star Trek Discovery.
How much of that do you get to get away with in Hollywood, Meryl? Like, I assume there's got to be an upper limit where everyone's just like, no, you're not doing it again.
Go on YouTube and search the word Sorkinisms. Aaron Sorkin steals from himself all the time. And if he gets to do it, everyone gets to do it. Like, it's like literally there's a joke in Trial of Chicago 7 where someone says to another character, do you know what an egg, it's like, do you know why they only eat one egg for breakfast in France? Why? Because one egg is enough. And that's how you say egg in French. And then he literally apparently had that joke in West Wing. He lifted a whole paragraph of dialogue about the guys of the Chicago 7 from the newsroom. Like it's like, if that guy gets to do it and he wins Oscars, no one gets to say anything like about that complaint.
What'd you think of this episode, gentlemen?
Hannibal's a weird thing for me. It's a lot like Community. I really enjoyed season 1, and then all the reasons I enjoyed season 1 are the reasons everyone hated season 1, and then the show doubles down on the things I don't like in later seasons. So I actually really enjoyed I rewatched the pilot as well before watching this, and it's like the pilot's really good, and this episode is like a really good delving into Will's borderline psychosis nature. In addition to watching Hannibal really kind of work, his magic, and the way that in the chase of the serial killer, I just found, so it's got that case of the week element that they handle really nicely. I think I found this episode to be a really great balance of everything that I like about the show.
So Meryl likes it. Bryce, what about you?
I really dug it. It was nice to get a little more understanding. Like, okay, yeah, so we do need. There are other bodies at play here from that initial murder. It gave a good reason why we should keep stringing along between episodes while also having kind of its own isolated thing. I don't know. I'm hungry for shows that are just monster of the week and just that, and they don't turn into big serialized things. Give me some of that. So I really dug it, and we got to see a lot, even more of like the really cool aesthetic moments in this show that people kind of really dig for, right? The fluid scene where in the coffee cup, and then it pulls out and you see, it's the milk in the creamer and stuff. Or even just like little stuff like the shot of in the hospital and Will is looking at the door and the moose walks by. It's like a little thing, and it's not even that important, but it's cool, and I think it's trying to do a lot to show us the unease within Will's psyche. And Hannibal, everything with Hannibal is great. The dramatic irony of just like, no, that's Hannibal Lecter. Come on, everybody, come on. It's great. It's delightful. I don't know why I love that, but that's great.
Yeah, it's the big thing this show did is it found it a way to work into the schedule some things that shows like this don't do, like pick like coverage, like certain coverage, and certain adding in, like, we're going to take the time to add in just that moose shot, which might usually be cut for a network show, not necessarily because anyone wants to cut it, because we don't have any more time. Like, we got 7 days to shoot this. We got to go. They still shot this, as far as I understand, in 7 days, these episodes, but they were like, we're going to find a way to make this work.
Tom, what about you?
I liked the Stamets story. I thought the growing the people a lot into fungus farms while they're still alive but unconscious was just gross and fascinating. I actually liked the way they had Eldon Stamets chasing Will down. Was really interesting. I also liked the Freddy subplot. And how they handled it, and how Hannibal Lecter, figures her out very quickly, but does the unexpected thing with her rather than the expected thing, and they kind of leave it up like, is she okay or did he eat her? I don't know. Oh wait, I guess she's all right. I thought that contained story was good. I enjoyed that. I'm still not entirely on board on the overarching story, but I imagine I'll get there.
That's so funny, because I am of the reverse opinion, I guess, again, in that this is not the kind of show that I would watch. I don't care for crime-solving procedurals. I don't care for horror porn. We've talked about this with Lovecraft Country and all that stuff. Like, I find myself yet again recognizing excellent craft, even though this is not my cup of tea. But visually, man, what a treat. You could tell that somebody somewhere said, in some writer's room, somebody said, okay, a bunch of bodies that are buried alive and a hand is up and they're all growing mushrooms off their bodies. And somebody's like, yeah, okay, where do we go with that? And it turns out where they go is a forced 5-minute conversation that leads you to the obvious conclusion that I thought everybody was on the same page on. Like, this guy loves mushrooms. This is his garden. It's like, yeah, I thought that was pretty obvious when you opened with a shot of a garden made of mushroom people, but that's fine. Yeah, I find myself, I'm still on board, even though this is not the type of program that I'm normally into.
Cool. It actually doesn't sound like we're that opposite, because I agree that it's visually stunning as well. And I also thought that it was going to be that he liked mushrooms, but maybe I just enjoy watching people fumble around more while they finally validate my opinion.
I mean, but also I understand, hey man, you got to fill minutes with something, and that was an expensive shot. You can't just have it all be that. You got to.
It was cool looking.
You need to have something with a bunch of people standing around.
I would be curious to find out how they did that on 7 days, like you said, Meryl. Like that was a complex setup.
And about that, like they make a point at the beginning to say, like, well, it's not about the mushrooms, it's about the bodies, something to that effect. And
I was like, they're wrong.
Wait a minute, I think he likes mushrooms.
I don't know. I guess maybe I'm conditioned with like murder mysteries to like, okay, we have to follow there, because you're right. Like if you stopped and thought about it for a minute, you'd probably go, well, the mushrooms are probably a really, really important part here. But with any sort of crime drama, any murder mystery, you have to just suspend disbelief and go with the investigator's thoughts, because otherwise you're right, you're gonna skip you're gonna skip a lot of the thinky parts. And it's a better journey if you turn off your mind a little bit.
Here, Ryan, this has been a week of bold predictions for me.
Uh-oh.
Here is my last bold prediction of the week.
They're going to catch Hannibal in episode 3.
And he's in prison the rest of the show.
As you go along in this journey over the next 30-something weeks, you are going to fall in love with this show in season 2 the way I guarantee you're about to fall in love with Community, because Community goes all you love for. It's like it was made for Brian Brushwood in season 2. Hannibal was made for you starting in season 2.
Awesome. Then okay. Now that's the first prediction I've heard that I truly hope comes true.
I want you all to clip it, and if I'm wrong, I don't know. I can't afford a steak. So,
all right, folks. Anything else on Hannibal?
Kind of the end of this episode felt like it ended rather soon, right? It almost. I mean, he gets the guy in the hospital, but it felt like they looked at how kind of abrupt episode 1 ends and said we can cut it down even further. Did anybody else? Because it felt like, oh, this is like there should be.
It didn't strike me.
He only winged him in this episode, right? So this is a character who we'll see more of. I mean, look, we're going to see more of the tabloid reporter. We're going to see everyone. We're going to see everyone over and over and over again.
I don't know if we'll see the mushroom killer. We might. I think he's a disposable character, and I think you have him winged to show like, okay, he's not killing every time. He's not going for the kill shot every time.
Yeah, I could see a future episode where it's like, wait a minute, this person's hallucinating. Who do we know that's an expert in crazy hallucinogens?
We must talk to Stamets. What? He's been assigned to Star Trek Discovery. What even is that? All right, that's the other reason it was abrupt, Bryce. It was an amuse-bouche. You don't linger over that.
Of course.
Yeah. That is Hannibal, episode 2, season 1. Thank you, Meryl Barr, for hanging out with us again, my friend. Where should folks go if they want to find out more of what you do?
Twitter.com/Meryl Barr, MERRILLBARR is where you can see just stay up to date with me. That's where it all goes down.
Thank you, folks, for hanging out with us. Of course, you get these episodes earlier if you support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cordkillers. Next week, we'll be talking about Fargo again, episode 10 of season 4, The Mandalorian, episode 5, season 2, and Hannibal, season 1, episode 3. Spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.